McLaren has become one of the leading super and hypercar manufacturers of the past 10 years, along with Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Bugatti, just to name a few. And while they have been innovating on a high level and gaining considerable exposure, they have also been struggling financially for a few years now as a result of COVID shutdowns, supply chain issues, and issues within the company and the company's management. McLaren's problems appear to have started at the beginning of 2020, or rather when the COVID pandemic really started to come into full effect. On May 26, 2020, Car and Driver reported that amid the coronavirus pandemic, McLaren is going to cut 1,200 jobs, which is a quarter of its workforce. This really shows that how during COVID, a lot of companies, especially McLaren, were really struggling with money and keeping people on board to work, and they were forced to make massive layoffs, which has impacted McLaren terribly, especially in the past few years, with them not having the resources to pull from to continue developing new cars, including the McLaren Artura, which has been delayed and has been the result of many shortages of both workforce and materials. And in order to finance the incredibly expensive technologies that the Artura pioneers and brings forth for McLaren, they've also had to sell a good portion of their historic race cars, which the collection I think is valued at something around $45 or $50 million, which is a considerable amount of money. And McLaren has vowed that they're loaning them. I don't really know the specifics of the deal, but they are selling them or renting them out and keeping them on their premise or on their property. And then when they have the money to buy them back, they will, which is a bizarre way of going about making money, but it really shows the desperation in McLaren and their willingness to stay afloat by really any means necessary, which also includes taking out massive loans from banks in Bahrain and I think the government of Bahrain itself, which is going to be very tricky for them to repay in the future, I feel like. And they're being forced to take out this support and loans because of their financial situation that was a result of the COVID pandemic. And while these loans would, I think, pay off in the end if it translated to sales and to McLaren really kind of finding their footing again, I think that it would be worthwhile, but it has not really changed anything. And Forbes reported on December 13th, 2022, that sales in the first 9 months of the year have amounted to 1,359 vehicles, which is some 13% less than the same period last year. And even in 2021, they were having a hard time selling cars as a result of the COVID pandemic. And unfortunately, I feel like their troubles are only going to become more pronounced as we're going into a recession and people are starting to buy less and people are not willing to spend the amount of money that you would have to in order to purchase a McLaren. And their golden age really was the 2010s with cars like the P1 and the Senna and even the Speedtail to an extent. And I really hope that McLaren can get it together and survive financially, but it's not looking good for them.